Ear Biscuits changed the way I look at blank. You ready to get into this?
Yeah.
With Catalina?
Ear Biscuits has changed the way that I look at therapy. I now think that there's not one person on this earth who wouldn't benefit from therapy, and I have Ear Biscuits to thank for that.
Oh, well, we definitely agree with you.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think, coming from two guys who at one point definitely believed that, oh, we don't need therapy. Like, why would we need therapy?
Maybe counseling.
Yeah, you always make the distinction between therapy and counseling. I never really went down that rabbit hole so hard, but I was resistant for a really long time until my wife made the appointment, as I've told before. But I completely agree with you that this idea that the stigma around therapy is, in my mind, it's as dumb as there being a stigma around having a primary care physician that's worrying about you physically. And it's been so cool. This is one of the most rewarding things that has come out of Ear Biscuits for me, just because I understand personally how beneficial therapy has been, and people saying that I actually started going to therapy because there seemed to be this barrier that was broken down because you guys talked about it. Knowing how transformational that can be, because it's been transformational for me. I mean, if nothing else came from anything that we did and it was just some people like Catalina decided to go to therapy, then I think this whole exercise would be more than worth it.
You know what? I think I agree with that. And in that case, maybe we should just end every episode with, and go to therapy. And then that's the end of every episode. No matter what we're talking about, no matter what the ending point is, just tack it on.
Okay.
Matter of fact, Kiko, when I just said it, and go to therapy, you can put that on the end of the episode.
Maybe we'll just test it on this episode.
And then you give Kiko a version of you so we can alternate so that, it's an us thing and not a me thing.
And go to therapy.
Why did you emphasize go?
I just wanted it to be a little different.
I have my therapy session tonight.
Okay, you going?
Exactly. I have a confession to make.
Here we go.
As much as we talk, as impactful as it is in my life, I'm still in this weird place where, like, every time I'm like, maybe he won't show up on the Zoom call because we do it remotely now. I don't know what it is. I'm so
well. No, you're not alone in that.
We're not going to get into this, but I'm just going to say, it has been so rewarding to my therapeutic experience in therapy. But I will say that it's still a constant struggle from week to week in terms of how I interact with, how I approach it, and being ready for it, and thinking that I would rather just do anything else every single week.
Listen, you're not alone in that. And I, as someone who has benefited greatly from therapy, rarely, if ever, my wife and I talk about this all the time, when that appointment comes around, am I like, yes? I'm always like, man, I'd just rather watch television. I always want to do something else. Every single time I want to do something else. And then when it's over, I'm like, man, this is so helpful. So I don't know. Unlike Jesse, who's like always thinking about when the next therapy is and it just kind of embraces it. I could learn from that.
All right, here's a different response. Rachel.
Ear Biscuits has changed the way that I look at being from the South. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky, and after college I moved away to a bigger city, and I've changed the way that I look at a lot of things like religion and some social issues, and Rhett&Link have shown me, especially through Ear Biscuits, that it's okay to still embrace your Southern roots, but also to grow and be a new person and have new ideas.
Thank you, Rachel.
That's a cool, nuanced response.
Because I know that I am guilty from time to time. Like, if I get frustrated about something, like people, being scared of the vaccine or not believing, in evolution or whatever, I go into my Southern accent when I want to portray that mentality. I'm guilty of that. I usually defend it by saying that I am from the South, and those sentiments tend to be a little bit more highly concentrated in the South. But I'm glad that Rachel picks up on the fact that we're not ashamed to be from the South. We're not ashamed to be from North Carolina. Like, we are proud to be from North Carolina. We are who we are. We talk the way that we talk, and we think the way that we think, and act the way that we act, largely because of where we come from. But at the same time, we do recognize that a lot of those things that we thought were, you know, we've moved beyond them. We've changed, we've grown. And also that's not something to be ashamed of. There's nothing to be ashamed with suddenly thinking some things and doing some things that you would have thought were unkosher or wrong or whatever when you were younger. So yeah, like you said, this is kind of a nuanced perspective, but I appreciate it because I don't ever want to communicate that we don't like the South and we're ashamed of the South. It's just that there's things that we thought and believed that we are glad that we no longer think and believe.
Yeah, I think when we talk about it, it's because we still consider ourselves Southern. That's something that we will always be.
Yeah.
It's not something that we're trying to hide. Let's see what Kate's got to say.
Ear Biscuits has changed the way I look at old Southern white men.
Oh, that's it? Old Southern white.
Yeah.
So now we're being more specific. You added this one in. Is this a trap for me?
No.
Old Southern and white? I guess I am.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but hey, but no, I think, no, maybe we're changing the image of old Southern white men.
Maybe, yeah, there's people who don't have old Southern white men in their lives.
In their lives.
We'll be those guys if you need us to.
I mean,
we'll be the old Southern guys.
Oh my gosh, I'm just hoping that.
Hey, Kate, you want some butter beans?
Yeah, Kate is just a positive thing. It didn't necessarily sound positive, but.
Kate, you need to work on your inflection of positivity.
If Kate went through the trouble of doing this, I have to believe that the intention was that it is to be taken as a compliment, you know?
Well, compliment accepted.
There we go.
Maggie.
Your Biscuits has changed the way I look at my own spirituality. When the deconstruction videos came out, I was too scared to watch them. I didn't trust myself to listen to your spiritual journeys and come out of it the same person. Over a year later, I finally worked up the nerve to listen to them, and they changed my life. I was a queer evangelical Christian deeply in the closet, and for the first time, I felt like I had the right to take steps back from the things that had hurt me my entire life. Thank you for that.
Wow.
Thank you, Maggie.
Maggie, thanks for sharing. Yeah, the fact that there was an entire year. I mean,
listen, I totally get it that you're like,
blows me away.
I don't want to, you know, I recall people just, you know, friends, people that I was in contact with when we were kind of going through our deconstruction many years ago, who would be like, listen, I don't want you to talk to me about this.
Yeah.
Because I have this sense that if you were to talk to me about this, it would make me think things that are gonna drastically complicate my life. Because listen, it is incredibly difficult to extricate yourself from a belief system. Because usually there's family tied into it. There's a story and a security that's tied into it. Sometimes there's a career tied into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many things that make it difficult to be like, yeah, okay, I don't know if I necessarily believe this, but the alternative is what? The alternative is me going through hell in order to get out of this. And if you're still in that belief system, maybe thinking that you would actually literally go to hell if you were to extricate yourself from this.
Yeah.
That's tough, that's heavy shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I think you can hear it in Maggie's voice that they're happy that they went through this process, you know? And I'm not saying it was easy. I don't know Maggie's particular story.
Prioritizing your own safety and your own well-being is such an important and at times extremely difficult thing to do in ways that I can't even begin to imagine.
Yeah.
And I'm honored that, again, us just processing our experience has a positive impact in people's lives. I'm actually surprised that I don't carry that around as a weight. There's something about this experience for me that is exciting and freeing because I don't have to have all the answers and I don't have to be prescriptive for anyone, but as we've talked about before, sorry to beat a dead horse, but the cycle of reward of being vulnerable and just being honest and then letting people take it for what it's worth and gleaning positive impact in their own life it just makes me feel so good that I'm somehow bypassing getting in my own head about it. I guess it's never too late, but I'm grateful that this is a healthy place for me to be.
Are you getting at the dynamic of making the decision to talk about some of the things that we talk about, and especially when you get into talking about religion, and obviously doing it from a non-expert standpoint.
Yeah.
We may have been professional Christians, but not, I don't have a divinity degree. We're not, so talking about these things just from a personal perspective, and then knowing that it's going to have repercussions. I mean, some of I listened to a few of these that I actually didn't include, just because it gets, not because it gets a little heavy, but there's a lot of people who are like, listen, I basically left this belief system. I left this belief system. I left this belief system because you guys decided to share. And are you saying that feels like a responsibility that you're kind of potentially having a weight too the heavy of an influence on people's, like, the weightiest decisions that they can make?
I think I could feel that, but I don't because the boundary that I put in place in how I approach these conversations. That it's not people's application is not our responsibility. It's the listener's responsibility, what they're gonna apply and how it's gonna affect their lives. Just because it's not just hearing something, there's a lot of other factors, and it's their responsibility what they do with it.
I think that's how I not rationalize it, but I think that's how I think for me the reality is that we're just a drop in the bucket. We may be the straw that breaks the camel's back in some situations, but just like we used to say back when we were sharing the gospel with people, on average people need to hear the gospel 19 times before they make a decision. Us telling our story isn't going to take somebody from point A to point B. There's all kinds of things that are happening, and sometimes it can just be a slight different perspective. And again, we don't tell these stories so that people will stop being Christians. Like, that's not the motivation. I will say that my motivation is that people will remove themselves from harmful belief systems, whether those belief systems are harmful to themselves or to others. And in some cases, that might be some forms or some expressions of things like Christianity. But I think that was Maggie's process, and Maggie's process was being in a belief system where their very identity was being questioned. That was something that we had the privilege of not having to worry about. Being who we are and the demographic that we come from, our identity was anything but questioned in that evangelical setting. It was all validated. So our journey's different. But I think that it is a heavy responsibility, and we do take, I will say we take it seriously. Like, we calculate the things that we say, and there are some times that we might say something and then we think about it a little bit later and we say, I think that could be taken the wrong way, and to say, hey, Kiko, let's take that out. We don't do this podcast live because we are very concerned about being able to, we know that people listen to it and are getting something from it, and sometimes applying it to serious parts of their lives. So we take that responsibility. I'm not saying we edit it on a regular basis. I'm saying every once in a while we might say something and be like, that might be taken the wrong way. Let's not include that.
And by the way, credit to our team, credit to Kiko, as well as Jenna and other team members who they serve as a filter for, they believe the best in us, and they know what we're trying to do and what we're trying to communicate. And so it's not infrequent for us to have conversations about, hey, I feel like this might have been unintentionally triggering, or came out the wrong way. And then, so maybe we just cut around this just because it could be misunderstood. And
because we're works in progress. Right?
I
hope that
too.
That 10 years
we say the wrong things and we didn't even know it lots of times.
Yeah, I hope
sometimes I say things and I never intended it. All these things happen.
But 10 years from now, I hope that I'm different than I am right now. And then 10 years later, I hope I'm different than I am 10 years from now. So I don't really, the point being that, I'm glad you don't take it too much on yourself. You don't see that responsibility as something that becomes debilitating and then you're afraid to talk about it.
Yeah.